Why, hello. Past couple days, man. Absolutely challenging. Get a mic check, mic. Mic. Mic check, mic check. Mic check. Let's see. I think we got sound. Let me know if you can't hear me, please. Yeet. All right. I think we got sound. I'm about like 99.9% sure. One of my sound meters is not showing. Just going to attribute that to some oddness. That'll do. Sound on. All right, good evening, dear viewers and cherished community. I'm Dr. Joaquin Acosta, your guide and host on Know Your Pharmacist. I'm the proud CEO of Pharmtrue. As we gather here tonight, let's embark on this enlightening journey, unraveling the mysteries and marvels of healthcare. Tonight, we delve deep into the realms of health and wellness, exploring breakthroughs and challenges that shape our lives. From the latest in AI and robotics to the critical discussion around skincare safety, our expedition promises not just information, but inspiration. At Pharmtrue, we believe in the power of connection, collaboration, and innovation. We're not just about providing services, we're about building a community where each voice matters, where every story is heard. Our segments tonight are meticulously crafted, integrating scientific expertise with human touch. Whether it's the alarming rise of the H5N1 Bird Flu or the transformative potential of CBD in cancer care, we're here to enlighten and empower. We also turn a compassionate lens towards our furry friends at the Animal Services Center in Las Cruces, a testament to the profound bond between humans and animals. In our Men's Health Minute, we tread into the complex world of public perceptions and controversy, discussing Dr. Andrew Huberman's current situation. It's a segment where we blend scientific acumen with the sensitivity of human narratives. As we traverse these topics, I encourage you to engage, question, and participate. This show is a two-way street, a dialogue between us, fueled by curiosity and a shared passion for better health. A heartfelt shout out to our show sponsors, Pharmtrue, Iowa's Cannabis Company, Vada Speedway Park, and the Baked Chicken Farm. Your support amplifies our mission to educate, engage, and empower. So sit back, relax, and let's unravel the tapestry of today's healthcare landscape together. Your insights, stories, and experiences are what make Know Your Pharmacist a beacon of hope and learning. Let's make this evening not just another live stream, but a journey of discovery, empathy, and growth. Welcome to Know Your Pharmacist, where every moment is an opportunity to learn and transform, so let's get started. All right. So, I can't say I've quite tuned into the news lately. Well, I guess I did watch the small town special yesterday on KTSM for Vada. That was pretty cool, Vada Speedway. But, Let's talk about the serious news, right? Highly pathogenic avian influenza A H5N1 virus infection reported in a person in the United States. It's coming from a immediate release on Monday out of the CDC. A person in the United States had tested positive for the highly pathogenic avian influenza H5N1 virus, or the H5N1 bird flu, as reported by Texas and confirmed by the CDC. The person had exposure to dairy cattle in Texas, presumed to be infected with H5N1 viruses. The patient reported eye redness consistent with conjunctivitis as their only symptom is recovering. The patient was told to isolate and is being treated with an antiviral drug for flu. The infection does not change H5N1 bird flu human health risk assessment for the U.S. general public, which CDC considers to be low. However, people with close or prolonged unprotected exposure to infected birds or other animals, including livestock, or to environments contaminated by infected birds or other animals, are at greater risk for infection. CDC has recommendations in the interim for prevention, monitoring, and health investigations of the H5N1 virus. They're currently working with the state health departments to continue to monitor workers who have been in contact with infected or potentially infected birds and animals, and test those who develop symptoms. CDC has also recommended for clinicians on monitoring, testing, and antiviral treatments for patients with suspected or confirmed influenza A virus infections. This is the second person who have reported to test positive for H5N1 influenza A virus in the United States. A previous human case occurred in 2022 in Colorado. Human infections with avian influenza A viruses, including H5N1 viruses, are uncommon but occurred sporadically worldwide. CDC is monitoring for illness among people exposed to the H5 virus infected birds since outbreaks were first detected in the United States, wild birds, and poultry in late 2021. Human illnesses with H5N1 bird flu have ranged from mild eye infection, upper respiratory symptoms, to severe illness, pneumonia, that have resulted in death in some other countries. H5 bird flu is widespread among wild birds in the United States and globally. So, what does that mean for all of us here in good old Las Cruces, New Mexico, right? We're a border town. We are a pretty rural agricultural state as a whole. New Mexico State Aggies, that's our hometown. We are right here in the middle of a lot of livestock and cattle between here and El Paso. And it's just, to me, I'm just talking about some weird coincidences about the flu cases rising in late March over in the state of New Mexico already as it was. Influenza A to be specific. So I don't know how those flu tests work, which just kind of weirds me out just a little bit, right? That if influenza A virus, whether it's the avian H5N1 or traditional influenza A, I don't know if they all test the same, right? Otherwise, you just traditionally don't see flu rising in the state of New Mexico in like late February and March, which it did this year. And that's just a fact. The New Mexico Department of Health, I haven't seen any statements from them yet. CDC put out this statement, obviously, to, not spread any panic. And I'm not trying to by any means cause any panic. It's just, I've been seeing a lot of coughing and sneezing going on lately with a lot of people. I know influenza A was spiking. Do these things have anything to do with each other? I don't know. These are just anecdotal, interesting points to make. Tests confirmed avian flu on New Mexico dairy farm. They found a cat positive, poor kitty. Right? So, I'm sure probably until like this CDC outbreak, CDC recognized the outbreak, no one was testing for H5N1. There's other articles and recommendations about talking about milk supply coming from dairy farms and things like that. Supposedly, pasteurization of milk should be eliminating about most of all viruses. So, I guess in theory, pasteurized milk is supposed to be okay. And we'll continue to find out. This is an interesting little alarming point here in the early part of April of this year in the spring. Traditionally never see flu at any, flu is part of the cold season. And I guess it's been slightly chilly out here, but geez. Anyways, what does the CDC, want to do in terms of prevention about it? People should avoid unprotected exposures to sick or dead animals, including wild birds, poultry, and other domesticated birds, and other wild or domesticated animals, including cattle, as well as with animal carcasses, raw milk, non-pasteurized, feces, litter, or materials contaminated by birds or other animals with confirmed or suspected H5N1 virus infection. People should not prepare or eat uncooked or undercooked foods or related uncooked food products such as unpasteurized raw milk or products made from raw milk such as cheeses from animals with confirmed or suspected H5N1 virus infection. How would anybody know that part? But, right. Specific recommendations for farmers, poultry, backyard flock, and livestock owners and workers' protection are also available. So, it would just seem to me that you would see bigger clusters of this kind of virus happen in, communities that are very agricultural based. So anyways, traditional, wash the hands, watch the droplets, send a couple prayers up. Seems like the H5N1 at the end of the day is relatively harmless to most humans. I bet, those, again, at high risk are going to be your most vulnerable, being your seniors and your infants, and anybody who with, immunological disorders or other weakened immune systems by any means. Definitely those are going to be people we definitely need to keep safe. But everybody else, just as well. I mean, who wants the flu again? So that's about all I got on this one. Interesting stuff from the Pharmacist Frontline segment, brought to you by Pharmtrue. Keep a close eye on this one and see perhaps if the state of New Mexico gives us a little bit more advice or not, or insight. I don't imagine nobody's withholding information or anything like that. I just, had to at least have the curiosity to the fact of perhaps New York, or Los Angeles. There's not a lot of cows or dairy or livestock all over that place, right? There's not giant cow farms right up the way with birds that fly in between it all. I mean, just curious. All right, so talking about our tech talk this evening, guys, jumping into it. More interesting stuff. Apple's rumored AI robots. I don't know if anybody saw any questions about those things coming out, perhaps recently or not recently, trying to compete with the Amazon one that's coming out. Apple, gave up on their electric car project. Now looking to do, little home robots. Sound pretty cool? Check this out.
The company's Bloomberg reports that a robot that follows you around the home could be in the works. Now, there is, of course, a lot of overlap with AI here. Another area we know is going to be probably pretty big for Apple this year. For the robots specifically, though, the report says the company's AI researchers are investigating how it could navigate cluttered spaces. A Roomba can already do that pretty well, so what else could this be? Maybe it's more like the little Star Wars droids. Yeah, probably not, but it's fun to speculate. Another project that's also supposedly a little further along in development is a tabletop device that uses robotics to move a display. This might mimic head movements of the person you're FaceTiming with, like nodding or maybe shaking your head. I'm already a little creeped out by my Persona on Vision Pro, so I don't know how I'm going to feel about this one. Home robots aren't new. We've seen tech companies big and small bring out lots of different versions with varying degrees of success and availability. The Amazon Astro, with its strangely expressive screen eyes, is kind of a jack of all trades, a home security robot, personal companion, and smart display all rolled up into one. But you can't really get your hands on it, even 2 years after we first reviewed it. On Amazon, it's still listed as invite only and costs $1,600. It's one of what Amazon calls its day one edition projects, basically their big picture projects and initiatives. Then there's the Samsung Ballie. We first saw this cute spherical robot pop up a number of times at trade shows like CES in 2020. And in January this year, it's taken what we think is going to be its final form, a bigger rollable ball with a built-in projector and, of course, plenty of AI. But both these examples show that getting a home robot right is really, really difficult. There's been so many other companies along the way that have tried to be our new personal companions, like the Anki Cosmo robot, which I remember falling in love with back in 2016. Pour one out for the little guy. May he live on through open source. It still feels like we're waiting for our true Rosie from the Jetsons moment, which funnily enough, is something Apple's also been thinking about too. According to Mark Gurman's report, one of the original ideas was a fully autonomous robot that could move around the home with video conferencing capabilities. Kind of like an iPad on wheels, or I guess similar to what the Astro does, but more intriguing for me is how the report also mentions a robot that does chores, like washing dishes in a sink. Obviously, the engineering challenges to commercialize that sort of robot would be enormous, but I would pay top dollar for that. Same price as a Vision Pro? Sure. Then there's the question of how AI fits into all of this. ChatGPT is being integrated into something like Figure, a general-purpose humanoid robot. There's Tesla's Optimus, also in the same vein, and Nvidia's Project Groot, which can understand human inputs like natural language and movement. Meta is also working on what it calls socially intelligent AI agents that could take a number of different forms, from AI glasses to a robot, using a simulation platform called Habitat to train and collaborate with humans in a home environment. They're all trying to bring AI robots to life. So why does Apple need a robot? Well, we know hardware is traditionally Apple's bread and butter. The iPhone is still the single biggest revenue generator for the company, and there is a big emphasis on what on earth is going to come next to either take its place or boost the bottom line. Building a robot is hard, and we've got plenty of shuttered robotics companies and projects to show for it. Apple reportedly also knows this because A, they know it's going to be expensive, and that might limit the audience it appeals to, and B, engineering challenges like weight distribution on a small stand, adding in locomotion, is no easy feat. What I really want to know is, what on earth would an Apple robot even look like? Is it something like Pepper the robot with a face and a screen? Is it more humanoid style, or is it more like an iPad on wheels, maybe a HomePod on wheels with roller skates? Okay, that last one's totally off base, but it is fun to think about. Let me know what your thoughts are on the Apple robot. Speculate on what it could look like and what it could do down in the comments, and we'll see if this ever sees the light of day.
Ideally, you got to get used to whatever utility you might be able to get out of that, but minus the perhaps potentially, creepy things that the robot could do, aka like, if you've ever watched iRobot. I know those are a little bit more of the paranoid sides, but who knows what age we're living in nowadays. But I think it's cool. I've never really worked too much with any sort of robot like that. Walking on New Mexico State University campus, you kind of like see little bots that'll deliver food around. Those are pretty cool. My dog kind of barks at it. Other than that, I could see perhaps that mobile little FaceTime situation happening there, where for instance, you're watching your kids or whatever, talking to your extended family and still being able to work on whatever stuff you have going on, and the robot's able to really kind of help facilitate a lot of that conversation, whatever it may be. I think that is all very useful and very cool stuff that could happen, right? I'm a guy who hasn't necessarily even used VR yet, so right, I guess those are all still pretty cool stuff. Probably even out of my personal price range by any means to even get to try, but I guess we'll see how it works out. Give me your opinions if you have them. If you have one of those cool humanoid robots. I think there's a taco place in town, and I'm, for whatever reason, forgetting the name right now, but they deliver your tacos on the robots, and I think you can place the order on the tacos and robots too. So that's pretty cool. Why not? All right, jumping into our Enlightenment Hour segment. More on some other interesting segment stuff that I think, or stuff in this segment that I think I just want to make sure we did get covered today. And this one actually might be even more of a potential, actual danger than H5N1, something that's coming out all over the place. So Valisure discovers that benzoyl peroxide treatment is just one of your two, salicylic acid and benzoyl peroxide, the two over-the-counter acne medicines. Well, those products are unstable and form benzene. What's benzene? It's a carcinogen, right? And so very interesting stuff. High levels of the human carcinogen benzene can form in some acne treatment products containing benzoyl peroxide, according to a new report from this independent quality assurance laboratory, Valisure. The company launched a citizen petition urging the FDA to take action on the products by encouraging an investigation and market withdrawal of the affected items. The Balisher said, many of which can be found over the counter at most pharmacies, can form more than 800 times the conditionally restricted concentration limit of 2 parts per million for benzene. They also found high levels of benzene in the air around incubated products, showing that benzene can leak out of some packages and potentially cause an inhalation risk. Specific acne treatment brands the company tested were Proactive, Panoxyl, CeraVe, La Roche, CVS's health brand, Walgreens health brand, among others. As a pharmacist, I love recommending the store generic brands. I've traditionally been a big proponent of recommending benzoyl peroxide treatment. I'd feel a little bit more comfortable recommending that so long as you knew what was going on with these products and maybe the way they were made. I personally use CeraVe, right? Daily face wash. It does have some benzoyl peroxide in it. Am I going to stop using it? Probably not. I'm just going to be waiting to see what's going to happen. I'm using it this long, and that's a poor excuse for myself to perhaps even say or suggest, but don't want to sit there and overreact by any means, but a lot of different acne treatments there. CeraVe, Panoxyl, Clearpore, all your Walgreens, CVS brands that are just the cheaper versions of it, generic. And even, these over-the-counter benzoyl peroxide brands that you can get from the pharmacy if you get them prescribed and get them back there. It's interesting that, even this clindamycin benzoyl peroxide, that's a prescription, is even included in this group. But, a couple other things here. Incubation of a Proactive product at the temperature of a hot car, 70 degrees Celsius, resulted in the detection of benzene in the compact's car volume of air at 1,270 times the Environmental Protection Agency's calculated threshold for increased cancer risk by long-term inhalation exposure to benzene. That's insane, right? I mean, you guys want to go and take a look at the whole mechanism of action of how benzoyl peroxide degrades into benzene. This is it, and there's a lot of information here. Not necessarily going to go through it. I think, in the nutshell, that's entirely what it is. But, European regulators have recognized the importance of independent testing and established a multi-state system of over 70 office medicine control laboratories, or OMCLs, which are discussed in the European Medicines Directorate document. By testing medicines independently of manufacturers, that is, without conflicts of interest and with guaranteed impartiality, the OMCLs have a fundamental role in ensuring the quality, safety, and efficacy of medications. And when it comes to medicines in Europe, OMCLs play a major role in contributing to the overall welfare of patients and animals. And that's pretty shocking, pretty insane. Considering the last night in our Herbal Wellness Corner segment, we were talking about a lawsuit between the Cannabis Control Division in our Herbal Wellness Corner and a manufacturer for manufacturers products independently a couple products. I think there's a handful from one location independently tested for a pesticide, which is not even on the list from the state of New Mexico of pesticides that are not approved. And, that poor brand was kind of getting thrown through the mud, here in the state. And they had a huge recall ASAP. And so think about all the big time producers here that need to keep this one hush and on the down low, considering transparency and all that. I mean, is our cannabis industry even better regulated than our, over-the-counter industry? FDA doesn't regulate cannabis, right? It's not a federally legal drug. States have tried to do a really good job to, ensure all of this stuff and have testing for all these products. Probably most of these products don't even get tested. I bet their active pharmaceutical ingredients will get tested, but the final product doesn't necessarily have to get tested. And that comes as a shocker for a lot of people. Anyways, in our Enlightenment Hour segment, the very latest, all I would say is keep your benzoyl peroxide products out of the hot car. If you're going shopping, get them to your house. Keep them in room temperature, out of light, if you can. And just be wary. Keep your eye out on this, especially if you're a heavy consumer of these kinds of products by any means. But, most people have a daily face wash, right? And maybe for those people, it's not entirely as risk unless you're in the transport. Who knows? But a lot of questions to be answered. Hopefully the FDA comes out with a little something there in our Enlightenment Hour. But let's move on to our Herbal Wellness Corner, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company, guys. Coming at you today. Actually had an interesting conversation with a patient today, and in a nutshell, her father, traditional Spanish-speaking, I think Mexican. I don't know if he was immigrant or not. However, very weary of incorporating cannabis in any sort of his therapy, but pancreatic cancer, suffering from severe GI issues, and so we were talking. How do you, she came to me with this insight, or these questions, and she wanted to use CBD, or her dad wanted to use CBD because, of course, it's not THC, and he was very nervous about that. So we set him up with I believe it was like a 5-to-1 CBD to THC tincture. And with that, very important because he did have a little bit of nausea from his associated cancer treatments, and the THC is the one that is, the winner for nausea. But otherwise, probably talked about that a little bit in our Herbal Wellness Corner. And this was the question that hadn't necessarily been posed to me, and I hadn't had any 100% need to form a guide on this yet. But CBD and cancer treatment, right? How do you consider, right, CBD and cancer treatment and how you would want to use it? And so went ahead and looked at a few good studies that are out there currently, and how can we find the purpose of CBD when it comes to cancer? Looking at overviews and effects there, inflammation, and anxiety and mental effects that can be associated with cancer. A lot of times, that can very much affect the mental state of being. And then you've got a ton of CB2 receptors in the gut, which, my gut instinct was saying, let's get the CBD right on down there to make sure that we perhaps have some positive outcomes. Anyway, so going over this, created a guide, added this up onto our Pharmtrue Cannabis Learning Center page on our website. If you guys want to check it out, for free. So we have the RSO dosing guide, which anybody who's needed to look at it has seen it before, but the CBD and cancer dosing guide is new. And so we're talking about, CBD starting at 5 to 10 milligrams and then incrementally working your way up, talking about how do you work your way up from there, ideally trying to double down, because if your liver isn't incredibly upregulated and you're not on blood thinners, aka specifically warfarin, you could probably get your CBD doses really, really, high, and anywhere here between 400 and 1,000 milligrams a day is about 3 to 5 times lower than the FDA-approved Epidiolex, your synthetic THC dosing. So just in terms of a comparison, cannabis has a ridiculous safe therapeutic window. But to treat Lennox-Gastaut and Gastaut de Leon and those two epilepsy conditions, by the FDA-approved synthetically made CBD, which is called Epidiolex, you're taking CBD in that synthetic form in a really, really high dose, anywhere from like 3,000 to 6,000, 10,000 milligrams per day. And so anywhere here, working up to perhaps 400 to 1,000 milligrams done between twice daily dosing on CBD is a very interesting place. Oral mucosal, right? We're looking at tinctures right under, the tongue. Otherwise, capsules, inhalation is harder to find and harder to come by. CBD-rich strains with no THC, especially with those who are looking to have a natural alternative for cancer, but are still a little bit on the fence with THC. CBD is a very, very great introductory product and can actually help to perhaps warm them up a little bit to THC, especially knowing that right at the end of the day, CBD is like a fire extinguisher to those psychoactive effects with THC. And so you really could experience some of that blissfulness that you need, perhaps nerve pain relief and anti-nausea relief, which would be great, and stimulate the appetite, which can perhaps sometimes be a little bit knocked out with CBD. But some of the research behind it, CBD has shown favorable effects in rodents on various cancers affecting cell proliferation, viability, invasion, and metastasis through multiple mechanisms. Fair enough, but we're not trying to use the CBD here to perhaps reverse the cancer. That would be a cool other outcome, but we're just looking at other, symptoms here, specifically, chief complaint being the stomach pain, right? And so, it's just a very interesting place that I've already seen CBD work with people with gastrointestinal problems, IBS, so on and so forth. And so, quality of life can absolutely be a game changer. And, I'll give you more reports as we find out. And so patient had called me again at about 3:00 today, and CBD so far hadn't necessarily had much of an effect. They were going to redose and double down. And then they were actually going to put in a dose of the 5-to-1 as well. And so even with all this information, they were actually, Dad was actually enlightened, right, to try a little bit of that THC in there, which that changed his mind before going in there. He didn't want any of it. And so we'll find some more, hopefully positive things coming out of this story, and we'll keep you guys posted. But otherwise, that's our Herbal Wellness Corner for you guys today, brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company. Very excited for the Essie Awards this Sunday evening. Hopefully we can pull it off. High Horse up for like 5 or 6. I'm up for 2, and Pharmtrue's up for 1. So, voting is over. Let's say our prayers. All right, let's move on to our community spotlight, brought to you by the Baked Chicken Farm. Wanted to highlight the Animal Services Center of the Mesilla Valley today, talking about some daily stats came out the other day, but what's nice to know is they're really trying to avoid in-house euthanations, and currently, right, they've got about 150 dogs on site in their adoption facility, 145, 180 dogs in their medical facility, 18 cats in the medical facility, and 1 guinea pig housed on site. 30 dogs in foster, 10 cats in foster, 10 diverted dog intakes, 9 sterilizations, 32 animals impounded. And this was just in one day. This was April 2nd. So just another testament to the good work that they're doing, taking care of those animals on the streets, taking care of animals that people cannot take care of anymore, so on and so forth. And, I know a lot of people do have a nice soft spot for adopting animals. Highly encourage, checking out the animal shelter and perhaps connecting with the dog from there before you consider purchasing a dog. My last dog I did buy, Lucas. I definitely bought him. My sister had his brother. And but my dog before that, Nala, I got her from the pound, and she was a great dog. Had her for 9 years, 10 years, or no, probably 11 years. So rest in peace. She did pass away last year. Great dog. Either way, lots of great dogs that are out there, whether they're on the streets, or in the animal shelter. Highly encourage checking out those places as well. Even cats and guinea pigs, who knows, right? I'm not a good guinea pig owner, at least as a child I was not. I hate to admit that, but I didn't do very well with them, unfortunately. All right, that's our community spotlight, brought to you by the Baked Chicken Farm. Awesome stuff. Last thing, we're going to get into the Men's Health Minute tonight. I'm packing a little drama on this one. So for those of you who do, keep up with the podcasting industry, you probably heard of Dr. Andrew Huberman, or if you're a healthcare provider, maybe you've heard of him too. Those are probably the niches that you've seen him. He's a Stanford ophthalmologist who has become a very, very viral, podcaster, giving great health information. And somehow in the last week or 2 weeks, it surfaced about a scandal with him and apparently, I guess, womanizing people. And there was an article stating from New York Magazine talking about, Mr. Perfect Andrew Huberman went from counseling, millions on self-discipline to being caught cheating with 5 lovers. And so I'm going to read you a couple different articles, right? Just a couple different excerpts from some articles. So here's one kind of bashing him, right? He's the self-styled Mr. Perfect who counsels millions of men on health, happiness, and self-discipline. Amassing billions of views globally, Dr. Andrew Huberman's YouTube channel, which offers men accessible scientific advice to counter everyday problems, has propelled him to fame in the massive world of online fitness. As the host of the Huberman Lab, the neuroscientist and professor at Stanford Medicine counts the likes of Reese Witherspoon and Joe Rogan among his 5.25 million YouTube subscribers, and another 6.2 million followers on Instagram. But now, Stanford professor is crashing down after being accused of a network of affairs behind his partner's back as she underwent IVF treatment. A recent investigation by New York Magazine has shown a light on multiple women's claims that they were tricked into believing they were in exclusive relationships with the hulking 48-year-old who reportedly earns millions from running adverts for dietary products and wellness supplements. In a stunning series of allegations, one woman whom the publication called Sarah said she was in a relationship with Huberman for around 3 years and had been undergoing IVF treatment to have a child with him when she found he had been having unprotected sex with 5 other women at the same time. Her suspicions were aroused when she contracted a high-risk form of HPV, a sexually transmitted infection linked to cervical cancer, despite having been tested for 10 years. Spokesman of Huberman denied the couple intended to have children together, clarifying they decided to create embryos by IVF. And the spokesperson also insisted he had not been in a monogamous relationship with Sarah until late 2021, although it appears to suggest elsewhere that he could have given her that impression. Along with Sarah, others only known as Eve, Mary, Alex, and an unknown 5th, potentially 6th, were all romantically associated with him, some having led to believe they were exclusive for years. All believe that the others' exes in Huberman's life had been stalkers, alcoholics, and compulsive liars, says reports. Sarah reported being told one woman had torn out her hair with chunks of flesh still attached, while another attempted to entrap him with a story about a dead baby. Huberman denies these allegations and insists the hair story was taken out of context. At a stage in my life that I truly do want to build a family, he told Eve, while he was reportedly involved with several others, and that's a theme for him. Yet despite the reassuring words, he appeared to be chronically unreliable, disappearing for extended periods of time with no indication of his whereabouts. For a man interested in promoting his personal growth, he also appeared to be unapologetic of deceiving his therapist, of which he has had for several years. We were at dinner once and he told me something personal. I suggest he talk to his therapist, shared Eve. He laughed it off like that wasn't ever going to happen, so I asked him if he lied to his therapist, and he told me he did all the time. Despite his dismissal of therapy, the podcaster appears to have maximized his use of therapy speak to familiarize himself with the internal experiences of women. I hear you're saying you're angry and hurt, he texted Sarah as she discovered journal entries about his infidelity. I would hear you as much and as long as needed for us. Your feelings matter. He told Eve on a day when they had injected his girlfriend, Sarah, with HCG as a part of their IVF treatment. I'm actually very much caretaker. Discussing his sex addiction with another woman, Huberman denied he was a sex addict, instead referring him to himself as a love addict. So, that's a lot of scandal there for that side of the doctor. And, here's from Yahoo News about Lex Friedman defending Andrew Huberman amid scandal, right? According to this, in the wake of some jarring allegations against Stanford neuroscientist and podcaster Andrew Huberman, brother in microphones Les Friedman is coming to his defense. It's heartbreaking to see a hit piece written about my friend Andrew Huberman, Friedman said. AI researcher from MIT who's appeared on his show and vice versa said in a post on X, I know him very well and can definitely say he's a great human being, scientist, and educator. The hit piece in question was published earlier this week by New York Magazine and focuses on interviews with Huberman's colleagues, friends, and ex-partners, many of whom have had strange experiences with him involving sudden disappearances and manipulative behavior. While such acts aren't necessarily an indictment on the average person, these allegations, which the neuroscientist denied in part of a representative and otherwise excused private, do illustrate a wide gap between health-conscious and warm-hearted person he presents himself as on Huberman Lab. It's a popular podcast that currently boasts millions of subscribers and acts he undertakes in his personal life. Hit piece attacks like this are simply trash clickbait journalism, desperately clinging on to relevance, Friedman said. His background and bona fides have also been subject to some social media head-scratching, continued. Fellow travelers, then again, it's not exactly surprising that Friedman is defending Huberman. While neither has expressed any conspiratorial or bigoted belief, they both play host to enough fringe figures and topics that they become staples of the so-called manosphere, the digital and spiritual home of today's toxic identity culture that perhaps best defined by the likes of accused sex trafficker Andrew Tate or the increasingly dazed podcaster Joe Rogan, who shares an expensive green powder sponsor with Huberman. Huberman, for instance, had the right-wing Canadian psychologist and conspiracy theory poster boy Jordan Peterson on his show a year ago, and Huberman has regularly boosted peptides, the unregulated chemicals hawked as the next generation nootropic supplements that are available for purchase due to legal research loopholes. Within that context, it's far from a shock that Friedman has rushed to Huberman's aid, though it's worth arguing that he could simply not say anything to avoid the liability of publicly aligning himself with some accused of such egregious behavior. Andrew should be celebrated, period, the younger academic declared. His podcast has helped millions of people, including me, lead healthier lives. Keep going, brother. So in our Men's Health Minute tonight, just posing all these questions, right? Everybody's got some sort of weird skeleton in their closet, maybe not to this degree, or maybe whatever it is. And it's not easy to go and put yourself out there, right, to all these degrees. So I'm giving an empathetic tone here to Andrew Huberman, Dr. Huberman, by all means. He I truly do believe that he has helped a lot of people through his podcasting. Who else is out there trying to help men? And he does help women as well. But again, with a huge platform and a doctor at that, he has gone out of his way past his ophthalmologist degrees, which didn't just take 4 years plus. Ophthalmology is really, really hard, right? You can't just get into these programs out of college. You have to be, out of doctor school, right? And you're not going to be able to just get into them. You have to put in a serious amount of time, and they're incredibly competitive to get into. You can be a star student and not get into these ophthalmology programs and wait absolute years to even make it out. And so, I do not discredit Dr. Andrew Huberman at all. And I definitely have noticed, I saw this because I noticed other clickbait in terms of doing some of my research for Men's Health Minute, people bashing the name Andrew Huberman because I think, right, it jacks up their, search engine optimization, whatever's trendy at the time, right? If, back in the day or whatever it was, maybe tomorrow it'll be Kylie Jenner, right? That's on the news. And if you're talking about her at the right time, you're very relevant and the internet's going to push you up. And, people that are looking for their claim to fame, to go and get some really clickbaity kind of, situation out there, that, right, could be a manipulative story in and of itself. So by all means, not to dismiss any of Dr. Huberman's behavior and how this ended up coming out. And, for whoever suffered from whatever with what he had going on, dating 6 women over 3 years or whatever, doesn't seem like that much to date. I mean, and fine, don't put me up on the roasters for that one, but it seems like, some people actively have a lot more partners in many more different amounts of time than that. And, whether his behavior in that time was manipulative and those things, I'm not necessarily going in there because those facts and those stories are not going to be told one way or another. But I think I would truly say his body of work so far has been a very positive thing for the people of our world, men. Him being framed as a toxic masculinity guy, kind of a bummer, right? It's just very interesting whatever definition of a man even becomes anymore. And I just hate to see that sort of style of bashing on people who are actually doing a lot of good over bad. And, think of Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods blew it. Tiger Woods blew it. He was a serial sex addict, right? That's no question asked. That was I'm not even going to, okay, yes, I'm going to Google. $120 women. 120 women. That's a problem. Andrew Huberman, 6 women over 3 years. I don't know. Bad breakups, whatever. Life is hard. I'm sure most people in life can say they've had a bad breakup where a lot of words were exchanged on both sides. things happen or whatever, right? But to go and try to sink this guy, and where you already see him classified as some toxic masculine guy with Jordan Peterson, Dr. Peterson, another pretty good thought leader out there that is a little too independent for the likes of mainstream media, right? And that's not okay to be. I just don't think it's okay to be canceling that kind of stuff. People should be able to have their right of free speech and shouldn't be, somehow try to be sunk in these kind of dirty ways when they are doing a lot of good in the world otherwise. So, I mean, perhaps we need to see more evidence to really, really, put this one to bed. But I do, support Dr. Andrew Huberman's efforts as a podcaster, as a doctor. I have no idea how he is with women, so I'm not even going there, right? But at the end of the day, we do need more guys like him out there. We need more doctors that are willing to put themselves on the line and teach people, outside of their clinics where they are getting 10-minute appointments and just bash, doing the best that they can to go pay off, hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt after, 20, 30 years of school, literally. So anyways, perhaps he's getting too big of a platform and some people are getting frustrated. And either way, I guess with success comes haters. So if you don't have haters, you're not doing something right. So again, my support for Dr. Huberman. And I'll stop tonight on that one. Men's Health Minute. Hope everybody has a good evening. Happy April 4th. We will see you guys tomorrow.